So assignment number 3 is going to be a portraiture assignment. But as is so often the case, it's rarely just consider this one thing, right? There's often more to think about it. With the black and white, it was the fact that we were thinking about all of the old school ways that film always worked and then trying to apply those things in the digital space. With your motion and depth of field, you had your aperture and your shutter that you were thinking about, but also thinking about new ways of editing in color that you might not have thought about. This time around, we've got both technical and conceptual ideas to deal with, because you're going to your portraits are going to be in a thematic series, which is what we're going to examine today, and you're going to learn about controlled lighting. We'll get a good firm start on that on Monday. This particular lecture is going to cover working in a series. So we're going to look at a few artists who do just that with their photographs. Now, there's Chuck Close, and you'll see there that he has a paintbrush in hand. Yes, he's mainly, you're going to find paintings when you look at his work. His paintings are based on photographs, and sometimes he just produces the photographs themselves. But Chuck Close has made an entire career out of pretty much doing one thing. This is a self-portrait of his, and pretty much all of his photographs look exactly like that. It's the head, maybe the shoulders. He usually will get the eyes, nose, and mouth in good, crisp, sharp focus. And then as you move back toward ears, that goes out of focus. Chuck Close has face blindness. And his entire career has been a practice in the fact that because he has face blindness and it really bothers him that he can meet somebody and then encounter that person again and not remember the face that he's looking at, and has to be told, hey, I am so-and-so, we've met before. And he says when he takes a face and flattens it out, that helps him to remember the face. So his entire career has just been him trying to commit faces to memory. And all of his photographs look like this. They are all head, neck, maybe you get the shoulders, and he spends a lot of effort getting the main facial features in focus, and things go out of focus as we move back. Some of them are in color, some are in black and white. Whoop, I thought I had another one of his. Right? But there's that theme. The theme being his face blindness and wanting to create a body of work that speaks to that. And he does so by finding certain things that he keeps consistent within the work. Right? And in his case, it's very much you are looking straight on. He very rarely has his sitters, like that's about as much as you'll ever see someone's face turned in one of Chuck Close's photographs. Usually they're looking directly into the camera. He has a certain kind of lighting that he likes, right? Where it usually doesn't cast too many shadows, the way he likes his people's faces. And the head's going to be large in the frame, and you're going to have the head, the neck, maybe the shoulders, but nothing else. You're never going to see hands. You're never going to see feet. You're never going to see someone's stomach, any of that. Because if there was any of that in there, it perhaps wouldn't speak to his thematic interests anymore. Then we got somebody like Daniel Kramer. And if you look him up, there's a lot of people out there named Daniel Kramer. He is specifically a photojournalist, born in 1964, still around. And I use him specifically for this one series he did, a few years back now. We're probably talking 8, 9, 10 years maybe. But it was a series I really enjoyed that he called my most prized possession, I think. And so it was a series that he did where he went to the homeless population of, I think he's in Houston, but I could be wrong, and would meet up with people, ingratiate himself to them, talk with them, spend time with them, until he felt like this person had come to trust him enough. And then he would say, I would like to take a photograph of you. Could you show me what is your most treasured possession? And he would take these photographs of the person holding it up. And so he's kept them consistent in a couple of ways. So there's the theme. The theme is, what do people on the margins hold the most dear? And how might that contrast with our own, what we hold dear, those of us who are not in the marginalized of society? And to keep the series consistent, you're going to notice they are all square. Every single one. And in every single one, he has asked the person what their most prized possession is, their most treasured, I think I said that wrong, the most treasured possession, to hold it up for him, present it so that he can take their photograph. And then he doesn't give them much of any other, or he didn't, the series was, like I said, a number of years ago, any other instruction. Show it to me. Other than that, they're doing whatever they felt like they needed to do. And in some cases, you get the sense of somebody who feels self-conscious about being on camera. Sometimes you just have people who are doing the thing that they think they're supposed to do. Let me look into the camera, hold this up. There, that's what I'm supposed to do, right? Or this guy who's very proud of his beret, right? And it shows in every fiber of his facial expression, of his posture and everything, right? And then he doesn't seem to be doing too much color editing. He kind of seems to want to make, let these, come on now, why are we doing this? Because my fingers are on the wrong keys. Hang on. All right. He kind of just wants to look like you were outdoors. They rarely have any color to them that isn't like cooled down, right? Like there's that red that he's wearing, right? But the whole scene has like a blue cast to it, so the red isn't super saturated. It's a little bit desaturated. That green of his jacket's a little bit desaturated. Everything looks kind of overcast in these images, so that we get a sense of place as well, of being outdoors, what it might be to have to live outdoors, right? But again, he keeps the square, that keeps it all consistent, because in all these, as I said, there's a theme, but we also, each photographer, and you as well, wants the series to look like they all belong together, right? You don't want one that suddenly feels like it shouldn't be in there. So you find certain things that you'll make sure to keep consistent. Then, man, Bruce Glidden, this guy, he amuses the hell out of me. I doubt he does this stuff anymore. I need to look it up. Maybe he does, for all I know. But Bruce Glidden, born in 1946, he's still alive. And he has made a career out of these photographs. He's been doing it for years, where he does the most, I don't know, it's funny, it's also kind of genius, and it results in these amazing photographs. But as you can see in that photograph right there, you see how he's got his camera that he's carrying around with him, and he's got like an external flash that he carries in his other hand. And he'll just, wherever he happens to be, most of the time he works in New York, but he'll travel around as well. And he'll just be walking down the street with his camera and flash in his hand, and he's extremely guerrilla. He'll look up ahead and he'll see somebody like, ooh, that's the person, I want to take a photograph of them. And he just walks along, unassuming, and then he gets to the person, he just kind of goes over and goes, snap, and then just keeps walking. Which results in these really great photographs. Oh, I forgot I had an image of him doing it. where people have the surprise moment of like, wow, what's happening here? And I've seen videos of him doing it. And sometimes he goes over and he snaps a picture and keeps walking, and somebody just kind of like looks back and is like, huh. And then they just keep on going about their day. Sometimes people get mad and turn around and try to stop him. Most people, they act like it didn't even happen. It's such a weird thing. You know, I love his photographs. He gets these moments, these little moments. This is like part of a series up here where he was trying to capture people in conversations. There's like this guy who clearly does not want his photograph taken and holds his hand up. This portion down the middle of these, he just did a series like, I want to take photos of little old ladies who are walking down the street. They're just they break the conventions of how photographs are taken, because most of the time when a photograph is taken of a person, the person in the photograph is aware that they're being photographed, and that affects what happens, right? Oh, let me tip my head. I know what my good side is. Let me turn this way. Let me tip my head a certain way. Hang on, let me fix my hair. Oh, no, I don't want to be sitting like this. If I sit like this, oh, let me suck my stomach in, like all those kinds of things. Or it's a candid photograph where the person doesn't know that they're being photographed, right? But you found a moment that you would like to take a picture of. This is completely and utterly guerrilla style and seems to capture something that's in between, because these people were not aware that they were being photographed right up until the moment that they were being photographed. This one in particular, do I have another one from this part of the series? No. Here he was in South Korea, and these guys are like members of the, like, whatever the Seoul, like the mob in Seoul is called. There was a couple of members of them, and he recognized them as he was walking down the street and wanted to get their photograph, and then knew that after he took it, he was going to have to run for his life. But he said they gave him that look. He kept walking, and they never came after him. He totally expected he was going to have to run for his life because they were going to chase him down and try to hurt him. But so how is he keeping his consistent? Well, he keeps it consistent in how he takes the photographs every single time. Right? It's today, I'm going to go out, I'm going to walk the streets of whatever city I am in. When I spot someone up ahead, because I'm scanning way up ahead, when I spot somebody I want to photograph, I'm going to take it in this very specific way. Today, I'm going to take little old ladies. Today, I'm going to try to see if I can find men who are having conversations or men who are smoking. Right? Whatever. And he keeps them, for the most part. Every now and then you get one like this that's not in that vertical orientation, but most of his are in a vertical orientation, so that when they're put together, they look like they belong together in a series. Love his stuff. Then Diane Arbus, who sadly died way too young, because she could have, it would have been amazing to have seen what she would have done had she continued on. But she was born in 1923. She died in 71. And she started making waves as a photographer, as a fine art photographer. She's got several different series that she took. Like, again, we're talking in the 60s here. And she would like go in and take photographs of like the drag queen scene. You know, she would ingratiate herself and would go behind the scenes and things of that nature. She took a lot of different things, but one series that she did that I particularly like is this series that she took of rich white ladies. It's a great little series where her methods, one could say, were perhaps a little ingenuous. I forget what the word I'm trying to come up with, but that her motives were not always what she claimed they were. Because again, she would go in and ingratiate herself to these rich white ladies, with the plan being that she would take a photograph of them eventually that they were going to be completely and utterly aware of her taking. But for her, it wasn't going to be about, let me take this nice photograph of you, this nice portrait, but I'm going to expose who you actually are. How does she do that? Well, generally by trying to include a lot more of the environment around the woman than the woman herself may have thought there was going to be. So you take this photograph of this rich white lady with her hair all poofed up, sitting in a chair, and Diane Arbus is like, holy crap, there's a poodle sitting on this thing that looks exactly like her. I have to get all of that in the shot. Right? There's this lady who is very aware she's on camera, right? This is the exact opposite of what I was just talking about with Glidden's work. Right? She knew this photograph was going to be taken, so she made sure to pose in a very specific way. But Diane Arbus isn't just focusing on her, she zoomed out so that we see this very white woman in her very fashionable 1960s well-to-do dress in a room that's decorated with, again, dog. There always seems to be a dog in these things. And like a Buddha, like the cultural appropriation that's happening around her, and the opulence of having a carpet that looks like this, and things of that nature. Kind of exposing who these women are and trying to showcase that what surrounds them might tell a different story than what they themselves think they're telling us in their own posture, the way that they dress themselves, what have you. And she kept it consistent by saying every single time, I'm going to go in, I'm going to talk to these ladies, I'm going to get to a point where they trust me, then I'm going to say, hey, I would love to take your photograph. And when she does, they don't realize just how much that she's capturing from around them. Now, Rinneke Dijkstra. If you're unfamiliar with Rinneke Dijkstra, you should get familiar with her. Her work is incredible. She is at the forefront, even now. She's been at the forefront of the art photography scene since like the mid 90s, I'd say. And every time she comes out with a new series, it gets attention. Now, she's got a ton of different series that she works on. Some are continuing. She has never stopped them. Others were very specific series that she did, and then eventually she did stop. One that she keeps doing, she's been doing this since the 90s, is anytime she travels around the world, and she does it a lot because she's a highly sought after photographer right now, she will go to wherever the nearby beach is. And she's done this series of photographs of children on the beach. Thematically, what she seems to want to showcase is the cultural differences of how people in different areas around the world go to the beach. Specifically, how do children look when they're at the beach? How does the beach itself look different depending on where one might be? Then she's got a very specific way that she goes about it to keep them all consistent. So she'll have her camera and her lights set up on the beach, pointed out toward the water. And she'll wait until children wander by and she'll ask if any of them want to be photographed. She'll have her camera pointed out at the water, and it's going to always be like this. It's always going to be sky, horizon, water, beach. Always. The child is always going to be right in the middle. She tells them where to stand, and then she doesn't tell them anything else. She just snaps the photograph. So a lot of times they are indicative of someone who's trying to figure out, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I know I'm on camera. So you see this little girl, she's got this very confident, I love her face, this very confident looking face. But then look at her hands, like, what am I supposed to do here? Am I supposed to put my, that kind of a thing? And then the way she is dressed for the beach, contrasted with them like this, right? But that same Setup is in place. Sky, horizon, water, beach. Right? This kid has said, sure, I'd like to have my photograph taken. He gets out there, and then it's kind of like, okay, well, should I stand like that? What am I supposed to do? Snap. Okay, thanks. Bye. And so you have these little moments where the person is aware that they're being looked at, and she wants that. She wants these moments to really showcase what does someone do when they're aware they're being looked at. And then a secondary theme is, if we travel around the world, how do people dress differently? Children specifically dress differently at the beach. Like, I love how pissed off she is that she's not being told what to do. And like, you can see it on her. You can see her like, what? Okay. You see her hands like that. Her feet are not quite planted. She's giving her a look like, what am I supposed to do? Click. Oh, I thought I had more. There are some of them that it's like you look and you're like, oh yeah, that was clearly taken in America, because it'll be, it'd be a young girl, just like this is a young girl here, but she'll be standing in some perfect model pose and like, hair thrown back and all that, or a couple of dudes and they're both like flexing their muscles as much as they can. Versus like, I think, oh, I had the wrong button there. Versus like something like this, which I believe is in Scotland, I believe. All right, very different ways of dressing that suggest things about the culture. Each person giving a different reaction to being caught on camera. Now, Haley Morris Cafiero, full disclosure, is a friend of mine. She's a photographer. She was in Memphis, but recently, like in the last 3 or 4 years, she's become particularly sought after for this newest series that she's been working on, and has moved to, is she in Scotland now? She was in Stockholm for a while. She's like globetrotting now. She did this one series that she called Weight Watchers, because she herself is a plus size woman. And she wanted to do this series that would showcase how it genuinely feels to be a plus size woman in the world, and constantly feeling the eyes that stare at you and the judgments that are sent at your way because of your body, that others who don't deal with that may not even realize happens. And so she did a series where she would just walk down the street or go to different areas, and she had an assistant who would be walking along with a camera ahead of her. And when she just sort of felt, she might not even notice or see that anything was happening, but she could just feel that something was up, she would nod to her assistant, and the assistant would snap the photograph. And oftentimes you get these moments where people are giving her a look, judging her body, or seem surprised to see her on the beach just enjoying her day. Well, it's so dark in here, I cannot see these keys. I like this random police officer who just does this as he's passing by her. She's got another series going right now, but like, I haven't seen enough of them yet, so I didn't want to try to grab them, and I haven't heard as much of what she has to say about it yet. But she put these out there, and then started getting a lot of attention. So a lot of articles were written about this series, and as we all know, the internet, pretty much every website allows for people to leave comments. So then she was reading all these comments, and you can imagine how horrible and rude some of those got. And she's like, all right, cool. So now she's got a series going that she's calling the Bully Pulpit, where she's taking these photographs where she like puts on prosthetics or what have you to make herself look like the profile picture of whoever was criticizing her, with whatever they wrote in their comments written somewhere in the photograph. It's a pretty good. That's a pretty cool little series as well. Then lastly, we'll talk about Jill Greenberg. Oh, well, hang on. Wait. Let me go back to this. So how does she keep it consistent? Like the photos themselves, you see, they have different aspect ratios and things of that nature. So it's not as if she kept them all the same size, but she kept them consistent in that it was going to always be outdoors. She was going to always be walking with that assistant, and she kept that very specific plan all the time. As soon as she felt like something's up, something feels icky right now, I'm going to nod so that my assistant knows to take the photograph. That keeps it consistent. They're all outdoors, right? None of them are indoors. Jill Greenberg, she's got a very specific type of lighting that is known as Jill Greenberg lighting. I always pull this up because this seems to be what people are familiar with, because she was hired on to do all of the promotional photography for Dexter, as well as when the 2009 Star Trek movie came out, she was hired for that. She's got this very specific lighting. I love this particular series, by the way, but I'm going to talk about the lighting real quick first, where you have two really, really strong lights on either side of the head, right? Bam, super bright light over there, super bright light over there. And then she keeps a much dimmer light right in the front, sort of shining into the face. It's something that she sort of developed, and it gets referred to as Jill. Wow, her name just left me. Jill Greenberg. I was about to say Goldberg. Jill Greenberg lighting. This particular series. Now, regardless of whatever your political leanings may be, hers are liberal. So in 2005, when George W. Bush was reelected, this was how she felt about it. So she did this whole series that was supposed to be like, this is how I feel about Bush getting reelected. What she did, this is a really cool series of photographs, but it's also kind of mean-spirited in a way, is got in contact with parents who have children, had them bring their children in for the photographs and had them sit, and specifically she wanted them to seem vulnerable. So you're going to notice they're all undressed. So it's, because she wants that vulnerability. They're going to all be situated pretty much like this, mostly facing directly into the camera, mostly with this blue background, always with this particular lighting. And she would be like, look, I want the kids to cry, but I can't make them cry. Like, that's going to just be cruel. What can you do to make your kid cry? And so, it'd be a parent like saying like something, I don't know, like saying, we're not going to go to the park or whatever. Get the kid to cry, and then she'd start snapping away. So you get these, some are pretty miserable like that. Some like, it's like this kid, like, could you have like cried any more perfectly? Versus that we can all identify with. We all at some point in our lives had a cry that was that hard. Like this poor kid slobbering from crying so much. I see that one, and now that I'm a father of a 4-year-old, I can hear that photograph. And I can hear that one too. I love this particular series. And then when Sci-Fi a while back got all of the Sci-Fi Channel got all of the Star Trek episodes that they were carrying, they went to Jill Greenberg and had her do this thing, which was a play on both the fact that she had done those Star Trek photos for the movie and the series with the crying children. All right, so I know that was a ton of artists we just looked at, but I want you to have a basis before we actually dive into what the assignment is, which is going to be a series of 6 portraits where you are going to develop a theme that you will explore in those photos. That theme will be the underlying concept that you would like to communicate, as well as the decisions you're going to make about what elements you will keep consistent in all 6 images based on your theme. Right? What decisions can you make about how you take these photographs that will communicate the theme? We just looked at all these different artists who had very specific approaches to how they kept their photographs similar, or at least, kept things consistent enough that they feel like they belong together in a series. But we also talked about how they related back to the thing that the artist wanted to communicate. You're going to experiment with controlled lighting, not just available light. Granted, yes, some of the people we just looked at were dealing with available light, but you're going to learn how to control light. We're going to play around with lighting techniques. But don't worry about it right now. You haven't experienced these yet. We're going to start learning those over the next few weeks. This time around, they can be in color or black and white. But again, that should be a choice that you make based on your theme. We'll look at some student examples on Monday. I specifically took them out of this because I knew I was going to have to do that speed dating critique at the beginning of class. And we'll talk about how those students made these kinds of choices. Now, this is important. I'd make a note of it. You have a proposal. I'll also put an assignment in Google Classroom for it. I just haven't yet. Your proposal for this is due March 17th. You can just upload it to Google Classroom. I don't know how well that took the photo with your flash on.
Sorry, I was just trying to keep a reminder of.
You can upload it to Google Classroom rather than having to print it out. But you're going to make a proposal, and it should answer these kinds of questions. You should tell me what your theme or concept is going to be. How are you going to demonstrate that theme with the subjects of your photographs? Who are they going to be and why? How will you light your series and why? That's why this is due March 17th, because you haven't played around with lighting yet, so you don't know how you're going to want to light them. Will it be in color or black and white, and why? Every now and then a student's like, hey, I'd like to do a mix. I'd like to have some of them in color and some in black and white. And if they have a good reason, I say sure. If they don't have a good reason, it's just because they think it'd be cool, then no. All right, other questions? All right.